All right, hi, I think we're live. How you doing? I hope you can see me. I hope you can hear me. This is a bit of impromptu. I haven't really planned this, but I did a presentation just the other day to someone and I thought it went quite well. So I'm going to just do it here now, live, hoping that it goes well for everybody else. So let's see how it goes. We'll see if this works. If you're online, if you can see me, please do drop a message in. Just say hello down there somewhere. I'd love to see who's here. If you're on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, just drop a message, just drop a comment in and say hi. And I'd love to hear where you're watching from as well. So if you can just drop in a hello and where you're watching from, I would love to know that. I'll put a little sign up there. Who and where are you? Oh, there it is. Right. Okay. So drop that in and drop it in the comments. Okay. Now, if you're here, what you're here for is to understand what I'm talking about how the strategy and execution cycles link together. So what I wanted to do is start off. I don't do this often, but I'm going to do a drawing. I've got a live drawing here. Look at this. Look at my whiteboard. It's not a whiteboard. It's a what do you call these things? It's a paperboard. A flip chart. That's the word. It's a flip chart. Okay, so I've got a flip chart here, and I'm going to draw a diagram of the business first of all, and then we can talk about what we're doing in relation to this business. So any business looks like this. It has the same basic idea. Any business, that doesn't matter what it is. Your business looks like this. So here are some customers, and they have needs. They're unhappy. They're not necessarily really sad, but they have some sort of need that they're wanting to have. They're wanting to have resolved. They're wanting to have addressed or improved. Let me just bring myself up on screen so I can see it, and I'll make sure our sound is off. It should just work. Okay, cool. So we have some people on, so we have these people, right? They're unhappy, and importantly, they have some money. And I'm going to put a dollar in there. It could be euros, it could be pounds. Now, hopefully you can see that. Hopefully it's big enough. If it isn't, just drop a message in, right? So okay, this is your people. And now every business looks like this. First of all, we have some sort of marketing funnel, right? And this marketing funnel is basically how you bring people into the business. Doesn't matter what they are, doesn't matter whether they're B2B, B2C, whatever it is. They've come in here, then they go into some sort of sales funnel. And this sales pipeline, I know we normally call it. So a marketing funnel, sales pipeline. Marketing, sales, right? So we have sales here down here. There's a sales pipeline. And then we have some form of delivery. Now I'm just going to draw a box for this, right? Now this delivery could be it could be a service, it could be a product, it could be an ongoing relationship, it could be anything you want, right? But out of this basically produces things. Now, the two things it produces are cash for you, right? Cash for the business that should make profit. Obviously, there's some costs coming in here as well. There's some costs. You've got to fund it. You've got to run this business. You've got to do work with it. Now, depending on what kind of business you are, you might be producing happy customers, right? Who've got a product or a service or something like that, or you might consider them to be still in your ecosystem, whatever they are. But that's basically what every business looks like. Now, some businesses, you have multiple funnels, right? So you might have, for example, sellers here and buyers, another funnel for buyers. You might have, for example, a seller's funnel, a user's funnel and an advertiser's funnel or a content producer's funnel. You might have multiple funnels. You might have a partnership funnel. You could have 3 or 4 funnels here. But the fundamental idea is that it's the same kind of thing. You're taking in something that's unhappy and you're producing something that's a customer that's happy, and you're producing cash, and that customer has to have cash, right? And now, it doesn't matter what your business looks like. It basically has this same structure. It doesn't really matter what it is. You can if you look at like product management and software development, that all fits into building this thing here, right? We're building stuff or building this thing here or building this thing here. We're building those things. That's the activity we're doing. We're building that. But that's what we're doing. You can also look at within this business, within your business, you can look at a small part of this business and say, well, okay, that's my part of the business. I run this team. My team is doing something, and effectively my team has some sort of similar arrangement here. Now, clearly, I don't necessarily have a marketing funnel if I'm running an internal service, right? But I have some relationship with my stakeholders, and I've got them in here and I'm doing something with them and I'm producing some benefit for my stakeholders. But that's the fundamental idea of the business. So I wanted to share that with you first as a concept to work on, right? To think about. What I'm now going to do is show you how we manage this in the two processes. The two main processes are the execution cadence and the strategy cadence. So I'll put this away and I'm going to bring up a slide. Let me just put this over here. Can I go? It doesn't have enough room. Doesn't get out of the screen. It doesn't matter. Right. So add this to the screen here. Let's put it up there. Bam. Okay. So this is the diagram that I put together that I think describes what I think of the business as reasonably well. In the middle here, this little area where you have that got this diagram, that's the business. So your business is operating on a regular basis, and on a weekly basis, you're running this business on a regular basis. You're doing the same sort of things week in, week out. That's your weekly operations. The way I recommend you do this is do some form of planning, right, or revise from some plans to start off with. Now, when I talk about this, I start here and I go around this execution cadence, but where you start, if you're starting out with this, could be anywhere. You can start in different places on this diagram, but eventually this all fits together. So you're writing and doing some plans, you're running some daily actions, right? So you're doing the things that are happening in your business, and this might be your team doing actions, it might be you doing actions, you're doing something to the business, and then you're reviewing on a weekly basis. You review what's happened to the business. Now, part of this is reviewing what happened, what are the actions that we did, and what did we actually do, what did we actually achieve. Part of this is actually reviewing how is the business operating. Because what you need to do is take that business, that process, the sales funnel, the marketing funnel, the sales pipeline, the delivery process, the customer relationships, the happy customers, the profit and the costs and all of that sort of stuff, and track all this with some numbers. And you're tracking these things with numbers and data and metrics every week, looking at this on a regular weekly basis. That's your weekly business review. And then you should also be looking at the feedback, the customer feedback on a regular weekly business review cycle. Now, doing this gives you a great insight into how the business is operating. And this is the same stuff you're doing every week, week in, week out. You do the same sort of work. Based on this review, you then revise your plan. So you revise, what are we going to do this week? Maybe you come up with some new actions. Maybe you come up with some new initiatives, some new projects. Maybe you drop a project. Maybe you accelerate one. Maybe you allocate some resources, whatever you're doing. But that's just your regular execution cadence. And this needs to happen every week. And in this cadence, you're not really doing major strategic thinking. You're operating the business. And this is where the money comes from. This is what a business is, right? Now, the blue part here, the strategy cadence around there, is where I recommend you do the strategy work. Now, I've got this as a separate cycle because it's really important to use the execution cadence, use the understanding of the execution to drive your strategy, but it's really important to not let your strategy come into your, not every week, you don't want to be revising your strategy, number one. And when you're doing your strategy, you want to be using your execution and what's actually happening to inform your strategy. So you're doing the work every week, you use that to inform it, and once a quarter at least, or once every month, depending on how you want to do it, you do a progress review. Like, how are we doing here? What's happened in our business? What's changing? You're taking in information about how the business is operating, what's changing. You're stepping back from the weekly maelstrom, saying what's really going on here? What's happening? What's the opportunities? What are the risks that we're seeing? What's happening in the marketplace? What's changed? What worked well? What didn't work well? And you're effectively taking that in. Where are we now? Then you're reviewing the strategy and saying, well, what should we be doing overall here? Right now, this is a little different to that tactical weekly changes, because you're stopping and saying, well, should we be going in a different direction here? What direction are we going in? Are we going in the right direction? What should be happening, right? And then you take that strategy and you set goals. I recommend OKRs, but you can use whatever goals you want. Set some goals of what you're going to do, how we're going to get things done this quarter, right? And then you write those plans. And now you have the plan to execute the goals that capture your strategy. You then start executing those. And during your weekly cycles, you don't need to be thinking too hard about strategy. You'll obviously be monitoring your business and informing yourself about your strategy, but you don't need to be monitoring your strategy per se. So those are the two cycles that you need to be running. And you need to run these. You need to make sure you have a weekly cycle set up with a weekly review meeting. I recommend starting this off on a Monday. Kick off on a Monday with a business review of the last week, all the stuff that happened in the last week. Kick that off and then revise your plans and then execute through the week. Send a final update at the end of the week and ready for your weekly business review on Monday, right? And just cycle that around. But then also set up a strategy cadence. If you set that up quarterly or monthly, it's fine, but set it up so you have a meeting that reviews everything. Have a meeting that you spend some time just thinking about your strategy, like reviewing your strategy, revising your strategy, and have a meeting where you set some goals for the quarter based on all of this, and then have a meeting where you review your plans, right? By doing that, you get a good understanding of how things are working. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to drop the questions in the chat. I'm always happy to hear a question. Just drop it in the comments. And if you have any questions, just drop them in there. I'd love to hear them. Happy to address those questions. But that's the basic idea. Now, all of this stuff, when you're doing this, there's methods that I recommend using. And I'm happy if you message me later on, I'm happy to share my weekly agendas for these meetings, how I recommend running these agendas, and all that sort of stuff. Because I think that a lot of people have these meetings and they don't know how to run an agenda. In fact, what I can do, I will actually bring this up. I won't put it on screen because I don't have it in a form that I can share right now, but I will put it on, I'll just have it up here and I'll have a quick look at this. So basically the idea with the agendas is you want to have the weekly execution cadence meeting. And the fundamental thing I recommend doing in that weekly meeting is, number one, read the updates, like what happened during the week, what happened last week. Share your wins and learnings, that's really important. And then review the metrics and anecdotes, and then revise the plans. That's your weekly meeting. When you're doing this, you're getting a clear understanding of what's happening in your business, and you're able to take actions based on that. And that's all you need to do for your weekly meeting. What you do need to do is avoid, this is a bit counterintuitive, but avoid reassessing your strategy every single time. It's quite hard to do it, but avoid doing it, because if you reassess your strategy every single time, you'll just get confused and you'll end up with a problem. Now, the second thing you do with the, what I want to do is bring on to the quarterly progress review. Effectively, that mid-quarter review is basically, first of all, you want to do this in the middle of the quarter. So don't do this at the end of the quarter, do it in the middle. And the first question you're asking is, where do we think we're going to get to by the end of the quarter? Like, what's happening? Are we on track? What's our predicted outcome? What's our confidence level? How are we doing? Secondly, you want to ask, are we doing things right? Do we need to change any priorities? Do we need to add initiatives, to remove initiatives, add resources, change resources? Are our current goals, assuming you have OKRs, are our current goals any good? What should we do about them? Someone says, hi, Majid. Hi, how you doing? Great to have you on board. If anyone else is here, drop a message, drop a hi in the chat, and I'd love to hear from you. And feel free to ask any questions. So are we doing things right? Should we, and if we're not doing things right, you have to ask that question in this mid-quarter review, this quarterly progress review. Should we change it now, or should we wait till the quarter change? Like, because obviously if you're changing things in the middle of the quarter, it tends to confuse people. And then finally, we're asking these questions, are we doing the right things? And this feeds into your strategy review. Let me remove the banner there so you can see what I've got on the screen. But you, first of all, where are we going to get to? Then, are we doing things right? And then, are we doing the right things? And you're asking, is our strategy still valid? Do we need more information, further analysis? Do we need to revise our strategy? Are we ready to set our goals, or what else do we need to do to be ready? And that's where you kick off in that review process. You kick off the process of doing the work you need to do to revise your strategy and set your goals, right? Because you'll clearly, most likely, you'll have some analysis, some thinking, some agreements, some aligning to do before you can actually set goals. Then you go through and you review your strategy. I always recommend with a strategy, a simple process of what's going on in the business, like what's the most salient information, and this could be information about the market, the business, the operations, whatever's going on. Based on that, what's our biggest challenge or opportunity? What's the thing that we need to address? And if you don't have those two things, you don't have any way of addressing whether your strategy is right or not. So these are really important background information for your strategy. Just write these down in a one page, 4 paragraphs, right? Where are we? What's happening? What's the biggest issue or challenge? What's our general approach for dealing with this? Like, are we going to go up market, down market? Are we going to invest in automation? Are we going to do more custom work? Are we going to pivot? What are we doing here? And then how do we implement that? What are our actions? What's our major action plans? That's your strategy. Those 4 things, right? What's happening in the business? What's the biggest problem or opportunity? How are we going to approach it? And what actions does that involve? 4 things. Write that down on 1 page. If everyone in the team, the executive team, writes those things down, you can then align and see, well, what's the differences? Do we need to align on differences? Do we need to change anything? You then take that and you can set OKRs, because now you actually have an alignment on what you're trying to achieve. You set the OKRs, you then revise the plans, like plans within the teams of like how we're doing this. Keep a plan. Plans need to be short. They need to be 1 page, maybe 2 pages, maybe one page of like, here's what we're going to do, and then a page of like the risks and how we're tracking things and stuff like that. But you keep that plan, and once you've written the plan, you go back and check, are the goals realistic given the plan? Have we got something realistic here? But once you've done that, you can then say, okay, here are our goals for the quarter, here are our plans. Let's get started with execution. And you go around the execution cycle. So look, if this is interesting to you, if you find this general approach interesting, if you want to hear more about it, drop me a message. I just decided to do this impromptu because I did a one-on-one with a client recently, and we went through this, and I thought, let's do it for everyone. Let's see if everyone finds it useful. If you find it useful, drop a note in. If you want to ask me a question, send me a message, whatever you like. In the meantime, have a great day and scale well. Bye-bye.